catch up now on what's been making the press, making the papers online, in paper. Alison Sargent, how are you?
Good, James. Thanks.
Good. Now, you've been looking at, starting with reaction to France's announcement that French troops have killed the leader of the Islamic State group in the Greater Sahara region. Big story here today.
Big story here today. A big story in the Sahel region as well. There's celebration from AUKUS, which is a website based in Burkina Faso. They write that France has cut off the head of the region's Islamic State group. Speaking metaphorically there, of course, cut off the head of the group, not the head of the leader. It's unclear exactly when the leader was killed, but AUKUS believes that it was last month. And the website is wondering why France waited so long to give the world this good news. The website thinks that the timing might have to do with the fact that Mali is considering signing a deal with a controversial Russian mercenary firm. France is strongly opposed to that deal, so the idea here is that maybe announcing the death of this leader would be a way of reminding Mali of all that French forces do for them. The other reason, according to AUKUS, is that France wanted to be 100% sure that they had, in fact, killed the leader, so as not to discredit themselves and also give false joy to the victims.
Now we're going to move on to another of today's top stories. Alison, the new defence partnership between the US, the UK and Australia.
Yes, and Australian papers, James, are very happy about this partnership. The Sydney Morning Herald writes that just a few weeks ago, Australians were feeling slighted by a lack of attention from the Biden administration. Now, though, they're being welcomed into the, quote, elite club of nations with nuclear-powered submarines. Now, because of that, of course, Australia has canceled their prior submarine deal with France. And there are some colorful metaphors today in the French papers, which, of course, are not happy about this. French finance magazine Challenge calls it a monumental slap, an unbelievable stab that no one could see coming. The magazine writes that the French defense contractor Naval Group is going to actually take years to recover from having lost this deal.
Well, bad news for France on that front, but the papers are celebrating some good news today. The country has almost reached its goal of vaccinating 50 million people.
Yeah, it is a few weeks past the deadline. The French government had hoped to reach that 50 million mark by the end of August. Still, better late than never. As you can see here, Libération is already celebrating. The paper points out that this is extremely impressive when you consider that France, as they call it, was once the world champion of vaccine hesitancy. Libération notes that as of December last year, 60% of people in France said they didn't want to get the vaccine at all. Now France is one of the countries with the highest vaccination rate in the world. Left-wing Libération, it's worth noting, is also usually very critical of Emmanuel Macron, so the fact that they're giving him credit for this is also kind of a big deal. The paper does point out, though, that there are huge inequalities when it comes to vaccination in France, notably in overseas territories where the vaccination rates are far lower than here on the mainland.
Now we're going to move to the US next for some reaction to the emotional testimony from the Olympic gymnasts who spoke about their sexual abuse at the hands of their team doctor, Larry Nassar.
Yeah, Larry Nassar, of course, already serving life in prison over this. But the hearing was about shortcomings in the FBI's handling of the investigation. One columnist here for USA Today writes that senators were really tripping over themselves the other day to express their sorrow and sympathy. But this columnist wonders, did they actually learn anything from this hearing? She points out that many of them have been complicit in the system that allows this abuse. For example, when Brett Kavanaugh, who was accused of sexual assault, was confirmed by senators to the Supreme Court. And this writer concludes maybe the next time a woman comes forward to accuse a Supreme Court nominee or a president, a few senators will show the same kind of empathy that they did at these hearings on Wednesday.
And the US gymnast, Simone Biles, who testified at that hearing, is also on Time's list of 100 most influential people. We can see it.
That's right. Simone Biles, tennis star Naomi Osaka, and also, as you see behind me, the headliners, Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They were featured on the cover. Mark really of the positive media attention that the couple gets in the US compared to the UK. It's overall a pretty eclectic group, James. It also includes Britney Spears, Alexei Navalny, Narendra Modi, Xi Jinping, and the senior deputy leader of the Taliban in Afghanistan. This is a group of influential people, not necessarily
different kinds
people
of influence.
That they're celebrating, yeah. Exactly. The only French person to make it onto the list, according to Le Figaro, was the French actor Omar Sy. They're excited about this. His profile for the magazine is written by fellow actor Bradley Cooper, who celebrated the kindness that radiates when you are with him.
And finally, a story that's almost literally heartwarming. Scientists have found that our heartbeats synchronize when we listen to the same story. That's
Yes,
lovely.
and according to this study, it even happens when people are miles away from each other, James. Slate explains that researchers had participants listen to things like a snippet from the audiobook of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or short informational videos. And all of the people that were listening to these same things found that their hearts synchronized regardless of where they were in the world listening to them, which also means that wherever you are at this moment watching France 24, your heartbeats are probably synchronized.
Well, isn't that lovely?
It's
Great.
lovely.
Good vibes radiating out.
Good vibes.
Connecting with each other.